You're such an asshole.
So I got this request and I didn't charge enough. And this is of no fault of the requester. I had no idea what I have read. And this is the single worst thing I've ever read in my I'm being deadly serious. Oh my God, it was the worst tacos ever. No, it really wasn't. You probably if you sat down and figured out, oh, there was that one taco shop that, yeah, okay. This is the worst thing I have ever read. Not the man's request, but he wanted me to read a piece we're going to get into. But let me read the request and then there is a way to take shit and make it manure. There is something good to come of this. Hello, Mr. Clary, longtime listener and second time requester. I'm probably your only sociologist fan. I have reached out previously to discuss different things. I want to keep you anonymous because if it was found out that a sociologist was listening to anything but Karl Marx, you would immediately get fired because you hate minorities. That's how the logic goes in academia nowadays. The structure, the things versus agency and free will, which my field generally focuses far less on. Your entire profession is to explain away why people can't work. That is your entire profession. Not you. Maybe you might have some moral, intellectual interest in the field, but that's your entire profession is to rationalize theft and communism. Not joking. Not trying to sound like an edgy Rush Limbaugh fan. That's what the social sciences are. I ran across this piece that gave me a combination of chills and Schadenfreude and figured your audience may benefit from seeing how a clearly intelligent woman, you're kind to this person, seems to justify ruining the lives of her husband, her kids, as well as her own life, seemingly in spite of this man acting like an absolute saint or a simp. Let's try simp. Let's do simp. Hope all is well in Vegas, your sociologist. And I said, well, to read the whole thing live, it would take way too long. So I said, for $90, I'll read this lengthy article, and then I'll give you my synopsis. He says, that's fair. And the title of the article, what the hell is the title of the article? Let me pull it up here. I'll just pull it up here. It's like The Lure of Divorce. The Lure of Divorce. This is written by an Emily Gould, sorry, Gould. And if you look her up, she's nothing notable or of notoriety. Typical journalism major, avoiding work. Writes for The Cut, which is, I looked it up. It's not The New Yorker. It's just New Yorker. It's one of those sanctimonious, dick in their own ass kind of newspapers that never makes it off of New York Island. And it's a subsidiary publication of New Yorker. It doesn't matter. They're all the same. Started by some hippie boomer in the 60s or the 70s. And the article, I'll just summarize it, but I have it linked below, and I strongly recommend everybody, I know the title is Why Young Girls in America Should Read Emily Gould. I'll get to that later, but I think everyone should read this article because I think it is the epitome of where modern culture and society and parenting, all of it, this is where girls end up if you follow the scripted narrative that we as a society, with detractors and different opinions, but if you follow the script, that your modern day parents gave you, okay, ones that get divorced and know nothing about happiness or functional relationships, you follow what your teachers tell you. You follow what your professors tell you. You follow what the state and the media tells you. This is what a woman will end up like. And all it is, well, not all it is, a lengthy piece about how this woman came to the conclusion not to divorce her husband. She starts off about how she originally started getting dissatisfied with the relationship, admitting that she was drinking and an alcoholic. She got put in not an insane asylum facility, some kind of mental health facility, a ward of sorts, voluntarily. She was then diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and the origins of her dissatisfaction with her husband was he was more successful than her. Chores, like not doing the chores, uh, the petty, petulant, little childish. Well, I did this, but he didn't read my mind. I mean, it's a mentally insane woman. I don't mean that clinically mentally insane. I mean modernly medically, like modernly socially insane. There is the convenient, oh, well, I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, so none of this is my fault. She doesn't say that, but that's implied. I would also wonder if there's any intellectual honesty. Well, if you're mentally insane, why are you writing about this? Like, what gives you any air of authority to write about this? Her complaints about the marriage and her husband and family life and career is completely bereft and absent of any self-reflection. She is supremely arrogant and delusional. She is the epitome of solipsistic, which, if that's too big of a word, it means you are the only person alive in your mind. Everything else, I called it the video game syndrome. Little did I know there was actually I guess, a psychological term for it. I observed when going out with women that they think they're the only ones that exist. Not all, of course, but there are a lot of girls who you do the entertaining and talking, and they would just sit there and like, entertain me, you boring court jester. People do not believe, men included sometimes, that other people exist, that other people have sentient thoughts, like what you see through your eyes, that's every human being on the planet, but you ignore that because they're all there to serve you. You're the only one that matters. People don't have, they're all NPCs, they're all assets, things that are to serve you and make you great. Um, that's on full display here. The husband is a simp. He is a weakling. He does not hold it is from day one. I guarantee you, does not hold this person to any standards, let alone if there's a family of kids involved and all that. The element of popularity and attention and internet fandom at any price, including the like you're airing your dirty laundry, naming names, writing books about the children. That's another thing. Uh, she's written books. I don't know what about, but I'm sure it's advisory. I want to know, like, what's this about? Like, how to raise kids? Is the book about coming out about raising kids or the kid? I don't know. I await with eager anticipation, but also completely tone deaf and having no self reflection. That maybe you're the last people who should be writing books. Maybe you're the last people who should be airing laundry like this. The indulgence of the excuse of mental illness, therefore makes it okay. Lives being ruined. It's a horrific shit show. And the reader on the outside will see this nightmare unfold before you. And the person who's telling the story, who's the cause of all the nightmare, completely unaware of the swath of destruction and devastation wreaking upon everyone, herself included. You're looking at it like, you don't see the solution here? And for my own personal observations for the past 10, 20 years or whatever, where we're all relying on mental illness too much to excuse despicable behavior. Here it was officially clinically diagnosed, but I have my own views and concerns about the veracity of this psychology profession. Like, really? Really? And then I think after a while, there's an element of having your brain pickled, believing your own bullshit after a while, that you actually start to believe this, that you're a victim, or it's never you. It can never be you. And it's just how society bends around like light around a black hole to cater uh, to people who who just act like pricks. Like, oh, it's never people are evil or lazy. Laziness is the core to all of this. It's never that. It's like, oh, there must be something wrong, and we got to tell. It's like, no, a swift old 1880s wild Western front kicking the ass would cure a lot of people of their mental disorders, I believe. And ultimately, and then one other thing is all the over analysis that comes from these type of writers. Unfortunately, someone paid me to read an article from the New Yorker by someone else that was a 10-page article about the demise of the journalism industry. And just like that article went on way too long with the analysis, this article went on way too long about all the different books and her thoughts and her analysis and things about how she would read divorce porn is what she would read. Oh, there's talking to the therapist. And then at the end of the conclusion, going through all this diarrhea vomit, gets to the conclusion that no, we're going to stick it together. And the final ingredient to this modern day piece of journalism is at the end, I can't tell if she was being facetious or if this was real or a combination of both. Where just like you see these TikTok girls like, oh my God, outlandish statement 1. And everyone reacts, oh my God, outlandish statement 1. And then it gets a bunch of lightning and traffic, and the girl probably makes some money. And then we got to figure out how much of it is real, how much of it is fake, how much of it is what she actually thinks, or how much of it is professional wrestling. And here I was faced with the same quandary paradox. I couldn't figure out, this is such a stupid thing to do to your family. Yet, it won't surprise me, given the lack of parenting, the lack of self-awareness, and the epitome of hubris, that people would do this just to, I don't know, stay in Hollywood, anything to stay on stage. So then it, kind of where I believe it's a bit of both. Maybe they actually think this, and it's also for ulterior motives, which then does reflect on society. Like, this is how some people think. This is actually real. And that's the best I could describe the article without you having to go and read it. And I want you to go and read it just to see it. I don't want you to be depressed and angry like I was by the time reading it, but you need to be, because I know it's New York. I know it's the world of journalism where it's, oh, me. Yeah, it's going to be, and this is the life of a leftist. I know, but it got published. And this is what's like, this is coming. This is what it's here. A lot of you, especially you, boy, you're going to run into this. So I think everyone should read it. But when it comes to the main thesis here, why every American girl should read Emily Gould, I do not mean read her book. She's got books out there. I didn't read. I don't know anything about them. She does have books. But I want you to read this article, because this is what you girls are going to end up like if you follow the script. The millennials, give you kind of a parallel. The millennials followed horrifically bad and wrong advice. Okay, just because your parents are older, just because your teachers are older, just because they're in positions of authority like teachers or professors, or positions of expertise, you say, oh, well, that's Professor so-and-so, that person was never in the history, well, maybe never in the history, but never in my mind, in the history of my knowledge of the world, has there been an instance where the adults and the authorities were so wrong. And a previous generation, kind of like, they're the guinea pigs. They're the millennials. They went through and followed the advice, or the lack of the advice, of their boomer parents, their boomer teachers, guidance counselors, professors, media, television, government. I'm going to say specifically the Democrat Party, because that's the advice they followed. and their lives are ruined. All right. Financially, maybe you have an uncle or an aunt, maybe you have a cousin, maybe you have an older brother or sister that is of that generation that followed the advice and has ruined their life financially. They got student loan debt, they don't have an employable degree, they got really fucked up politics, and they're just not pleasant people to be around because they're angry. And they kind of got a right to be angry. But this is different. This is new. This is a 41, 42-year-old woman. You think, oh, when I was a young kid, whether as a kid or a young adult, like 19, 20, oh, people in their 40s, they got their shit together. No, they absolutely don't. And right now, on average, and certainly if you go to the public schools, you're being told the shit and the lies and the propaganda and the utter bullshit that this used to be young woman was told. And if you follow it, especially if you listen to feminists, especially if you listen and you subscribe to feminist indoctrination, this is where you're going to end up. This is kind of where you'll be. And you're going to read through it. And if you're a younger person, you're going to be like, this is weird. And you may not be able to put a fine point on it. You're just going to be like, I don't like this. This is a weird one. This is bad. I don't want this life. But let me point out the couple things. I don't know. I got 5 or 6 things that I drew from this that I want all you young girls out there, young, under 30, I guess, including teenage girls. This is where you're going to end up and why and how. These are the points. I want you to pay attention to these things. And then for those of you who want to have a miserable morning, go ahead and read it. All right. So the first thing is an utterly self-centered life. I talked about that before, where she's solipsistic. Nobody else in her life matters. Even the concept that you would write this article shows that this person does not understand the concept of others. It's all about her. It's all about me and what I've experienced. There is no sympathy for the husband. There is no sympathy for the kids. I've never read a worse piece of literature in my life. I mean, it's well written, I'll grant her that, but it's horrible. It's just horrible. Right? So you'll notice everything is about her. There are no other people in her life. I mean, yes, there are other people in her life, but she doesn't realize that. Right? The avoidance of work, aka laziness. I have a course. It's called How to Stop Being Lazy. It's critically important you are not lazy because nearly all the avoidance of work, laziness is the soil in which all these problems started growing. And if you look at her choices and her husband's choices in terms of careers and professions, they just avoided work. They're both journalists. They don't have any money. She pisses away all the money, which reflects upon the self-centered life where she has no relationships. All she has is things and stuff. So she buys food and booze and all that other stuff, things to fill the hole. But if she was too lazy to go and actually become an actual journalist, she was too lazy to go and work. Once the journalism didn't pay, she was too lazy to go and work an actual hard job, like say bartending or being a waitress, which, you could also become an accountant or an engineer. I'm just pointing out, like, without having to go and get another college degree. I don't know if there's any raising of the children. All I heard was attending, writing this, attending, writing that. The husband is also lazy because he does not have the balls to put his wife in line when she steps out of line with unacceptable behavior. Alcoholic drinking. I mean, it's fine if you drink, but if you're an alcoholic, it's another thing. Arguing, like, I don't tolerate arguing. There's no arguing. Do the chores. And if you had 2 hardworking people, well, you could probably run on one engine where one person would be able to support the family and the other person raise the kids like we did in the nuclear days. But that's going to be part of your indoctrination and brainwashing is you both need to work. You're a worthless person, especially you girls. You are worthless unless you have a career. Well, is it being a mom and a supporting wife kind of a career and very important? No. How dare you degrade yourself like that? So I'm sure she got a bucket full of that lie and propaganda. But a lot of their problems would go away if they were making good money. The stress that comes from not having money, not being able to make rent, uh, then going and buying booze and drug and takeout food. I didn't have takeout. I still rarely pay for takeout food. No, I'll go pick it up. Just notice how, if you read through the article, notice how many problems would go away if they actually had money. Not all of them go away, but a lot of them would. So I implore you, young girls, to please not major in dumb shit. If you go to college at all, go into the military, get the GI Bill, look into the trades. If you go to school or college, please look at accounting, engineering, degrees that pay so you don't have this problem. The abdication of responsibility is the third thing you'll notice. Nothing is her fault. Nothing. And conveniently, she got officially diagnosed with bipolar. And alcoholism. Right? Is there such a thing as mental illness? Yes. Right. But it's way too easy to blame your horrifically bad behavior on mental illness. There's not much more to say of it than that. Oh yeah, I got diagnosed and I'm in an institution, which lends some credibility to her claim, but it still doesn't change the fact. And again, I'm not a therapist, but then again, psychology doesn't have a lot of veracity now, as they went back and tried to recreate some of the studies psychologists have done in the past. I don't care if you're actually bipolar or not. Everyone's got to deal with your attitude and behaviors and the consequences of that. So whether you actually have it, and I'm wondering how much of that comes from just shitty upbringing and arrogant, cocky behavior, versus genetics. So whether you actually have it or whether you don't, and you're just faking it because it's a convenient excuse for your shitty behavior, it doesn't solve the problem. Your behavior is still unacceptable. And people, no one has to marry a bipolar person. No one has to stick around. They can leave. The husband that no one, just because I got a mental disorder. Oh, okay. Yeah. Your husband's going to stick around and people are going to still tolerate you, or your employer's going to still tolerate you. No, well, you're still out of here. Which then you now have weak men. The husband is enabling all this. I don't know. There wasn't much other talk about this guy, but nowhere is it John Wayne manning up in McClintock, grabbing it's like a little shovel you use to get cinders out of the fire pit, and he starts spanking Maureen O'Hara in the ass with it. Watch the movie. It's probably banned by now. It's a Western interpretation of Taming of the Shrew, if you want to be cultural about it. But you girls are going to see, you girls have your propaganda to follow. The men have, young men, boys have their propaganda to follow. And that is, all boys should become like little obedient girls and be weak, cowardly pussies who don't stand up, who have no standards, and will never tell you no. And that you cannot have a world where no one tells you no. You cannot have a world where everything you do is great and amazing and wonderful. But weak men enable that. Weak men tolerate this, and his life is over now too. It's absolutely hell. Absolutely hell. Not mentioned much, but existence. You're going to see tortured children in this. Broken families is child abuse. Broken homes is child abuse. Not like something that you're going to have child protective services, but not having parents that have their shit together and are all about themselves and are not putting their children before themselves. That is a form. You have children that are going to be ill-raised, and I'm thankful for it, because that way I'll never run out of clients. Basically, all my clients are people who had parents that failed them in some way or another. That's why I have a course called The Dad You Never Had, because if you had your fathers, I wouldn't have to be here now giving advice like, yeah, maybe you should lose weight. Maybe you shouldn't major in journalism. Maybe you should have some self-respect. All this shit that I have to deal with. But maybe many of you are starting to go, a lot of people are depressed. Self-deletion rates are up. Antidepressant use is up. It's because basically the institutions, all the adults, lied to you about the nature of the real world. And you did exactly what the elders told you. You're not having the success you were expecting in life. You were certainly not delivered what you were promised, and now you are understandably sad and depressed and somewhat tortured. That's because you were given the wrong information, and I would say in some cases outright lied to. There's being misinformed, where the person telling you the wrong information doesn't know it's wrong, and then there's outright lies, where people know it's wrong, but they have an agenda or they're going to make money off of you somehow. Also, kind of related to that is parading of the children, where I don't know what the book is about, but they're writing about raising children. They talk about the children in this, which should be disturbing to you. Things should remain private, but it kind of shows you where a lot of people view the value of the children. The value of the children is not raising them in the love and the creation of another human being that will have their own life and maybe get grandchildren in the future, and you can have family events like Christmas or Thanksgiving. That's not it. No, these are assets. These are tools to promote and profit off of. Where I'll accuse 85% of American parents of this. Children are things. Your parents had you because they wanted a child. They wanted a check mark. They wanted a thing like a Ferrari or a Cadillac. Now I have my thing, and now I could go back to work and drop the kid off at daycare. That's obviously a very clear theme here that is repeated elsewhere in society. The resentment of others' success. One could make the very good argument that this girl drank a bucket load of feminism, and therefore she resents her husband's success. I don't think that it was feminist driven. I think it's just natural human envy. At no point in this article did she say that her resentment of her husband's relative, and keep in mind, relative, not objective, relative success to hers. Nowhere did she say it was because of him being a guy or the patriarchy. She just resented him. That's a horrible flaw to have, a horrible thing to have, because there are going to be people who do better than you, sometimes by luck, usually through harder work. And instead of saying, wow, look at that person, good for them, usually the ultimately lazy people who have nothing else going on in life want to rationalize that somehow unfair, that somehow they deserved better, and this person got it by on luck and not hard work, even though in the article she admits she's lazy and doesn't work as hard as him. Still, the resentment is there. And again, scarily enough, no attempt to say, oh, I shouldn't feel that way. That's odd. Oh, that's really immature of me. Right? You are going to absolutely, starting in kindergarten all the way through college, your teachers and professors are going to instill envy, greed, and jealousy in you. Because Jeff Bezos has $160 billion, which he doesn't have $160 billion. He has $160 billion worth of Amazon stock, which he could not liquidate for $160 billion cash, because you need someone with $160 billion to buy it. And once he starts selling it, the stock price is going to go down. So actually, he cannot liquidate into $160 billion cash, but I don't care to bore you with an economic detail there. So what? Jeff Bezos has $160 billion. That doesn't hurt you. That's fine. That's great. Why can't someone have $160 billion in net worth? But you are going to be, that is number one, they're going to instill in you that other people have more and it's unfair. And instead of being happy for your husband, you're going to be envious of him or anybody else. You know, general rule, half the people that are going to be in your life, like people you like your family and your friends, on average, half of them are going to have it better than you. But it doesn't do any good to resent. It'd be more like, well, what'd you do? How'd you do? Boy, I'm real happy for you, man. And it's ruined her life, or lessened it at least, because she's resenting others who have more success. And then, as I kind of mentioned before, is this real or is it fake? It doesn't matter, because it's horrible either way. If this is actually real and this is what's happened, that's horrible. It's horrible. But if she's faking it, like, nah, she didn't get bipolar, it's all a big work of fiction. Maybe she drank a little bit too much. Maybe there's elements of it, but no, she gussied this up to exaggerate it and embellish it so she could have a saucy piece. That's almost even worse. That's, again, the bipolar thing where, oh, if the girl has bipolar, it's pretty bad. If she claims to have bipolar, but she doesn't really have it, that's worse. That's worse. It's horrible either way. But again, as people are delusional, brought up on lies, deceit, ideology, envy, greed, their entire mental diet is, well, I guess the alcohol and whatever antidepressant drugs and psychotropic drugs people are on, that doesn't help. You actually start believing your own bullshit, where some of it is real, some of it is fake. And that's not good. But for you young ladies out there, all I want, it's a long read, it's a lengthy article. For you, go read this person, and then ask yourself, is this the life you want? And if this is the life you don't want, I've gone through the handful of things here. Don't major in dumb shit. Don't be envious of other people. Understand, and I think the biggest one is to understand and know that there are other people in life. And that is where you're going to get the most joy out of life, is through other people, like family, friends, and stuff like that. It's not you. Your life will go so much better once you realize you don't exist. Kind of in a psychological experiment sort of way. I'm not saying don't have respect and let people run over you. That's not what I'm saying at all. But once you could play all the video games, drink all the booze, go to all the parties. Oh my God, I am an author. But in the end of the day, you're not getting hugs from your kids, sex from your husband, a punch in the shoulder from your bros if you're a guy. You got nothing. You got nothing. And here she is. She got a husband and kids. It's over. There's too much poison in the well. This well's been poisoned. But she's miserable. Why? Because she's more obsessed about her career, herself, and the way of me. I'm amazed again how many pages women can write about absolute bullshit. It's like, dude, get to the point. They get lost in their feelings and emotions, or the amorphous, I dare not call it philosophy, but meandering, unfocused thoughts and emotions that, go read the other article I wrote. Like, God almighty, get to the point. Do you want that life, girl? Do you want that life? You do? Cool. Do exactly what your teachers, guidance counselors, do whatever feels good. Okay? General rule. But if you want to avoid it, realize you're not the only person alive. Please get a work ethic and go actually do something that is productive and people want to pay. Because not only will it give you a sense of reward, like, oh, I actually, your surgeons don't have this problem. I saved that person's life. Pretty fucking good for me. Like, there's no surgeons like, well, I saved another life. No, I'm pretty good with my job and what I do. Yeah, no, I don't ethically think about the morals of my job. I'm pretty moral. Like, matter of fact, I'm the apex predator. But also, so you're paid well, so you don't have to worry about things like food and clothing and rent. Also in there, she just spends money. You're not going to be happy spending money. If you need another course to take, I have a course called Achieving Financial Excellence, but that's an aside. These are all on Teachable. The abdication of responsibility. Nothing's my fault. Everything's out of my control. No, you're a lazy sack of shit. And inevitably, no one's going to want to hang out with you, especially anyone of value. They're going to be, look at this person. Everything else is somebody else's fault. Also, related to that, do you think this is a fun person to hang out with? It's like great. Please put your children first if you have any. Please raise them. Envy and greed, don't resent others' successes. Be happy for them and try to replicate it in your own self. And not for a second start believing, if you do engage in that, any of this bullshit is real. Please don't do that. Please don't. So there we go. That's it. No, don't save that. Yeah, so that's it. That was it was painful reading that. It was real bad. Don't read it if you're in a bad mood. Please don't. But yeah, I'd recommend that. Link below if you all need to know how not to end up like this. I got a course called The Dad You Never Had. It's available for all of you who were raised without a father, or your father was there but gave you the wrong advice, which is typically more correct or typical. And then I don't know. Oh, how to stop being lazy. That is, take that course first. If you're going to take both courses, take that course first because you get a discount, because all it is. No, well, I take that back. If you want to take both, take the Dad You Never Had, because How to Be Lazy is just one chapter from the Dad You Never Had that I broke out on a standalone course. So if you want the whole thing, just take the Dad You Never Had. If you didn't want to, you didn't need that, but you did want to stop being lazy. How to Stop Being Lazy, that's just one chapter out of it, and it's a third of the price. And so you could take that as well. But let's go to the super chats. And then for my regular audience, yeah, guys, read it. It's just, it's like, no. Here's what it is if any of you still have this lingering doubt, like, is it me that's insane or is it society? Go read that. It's society. It's not you. That's it. No super chats. All right. I'll see you guys later. Toodles.